Identity theft has been a staple of cinema for decades. The idea of turning into another person has fueled plotlines for thrillers such as Gattaca and Face Off, to comedies such as White Chicks, even dating as far back as Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. But how much merit is there behind the idea of becoming someone else? Our story takes place in Brycina in Poland, about 12 kilometers south of the capital of Krakow. The once peaceful village was a stranger to the macabre crimes such as the one sprinkled across the United States. But by May of 1999, the country would have its very own version of Ed Gein. This tale comes from the American Journal of Forensic Medicine and Pathology. The crime was studied by Jerzy Koons and Adam Gross, who wrote the Forensic Medicine and Pathology academic article titled "Victim's Scalp on the Killer's Head: An Unusual Case of Criminal Postmortem Mutilation." A man named Vladislav was a Russian immigrant that moved to Poland to go to college and live with his father. His father settled in Poland after cheating on his wife, leaving Vladislav's mother and sister behind. Despite the fact that he was very rich, he took no interest in his family's welfare and never offered help. Vladislav studied medicine for 1 year and psychology for 3 years, and then he finally dropped out. Thereafter, he was unemployed, and while living with his father, he grew to resent him more and more with each passing day. He considered his father's life immoral, and Vladislav no longer tolerated his father's behavior. On the 30th of May, 1999, he decided that it was time for his father to die. He lured his father into the cellar and started to electrocute him using a stun gun. Dissatisfied that it wasn't killing his father, Vladislav took a sharpened screwdriver and stabbed him in the neck and chest multiple times. After this, he hung his father by his legs in a cellar window and decapitated him using a surgical scalpel and shovel. Additionally, he made deep incisions across the popliteal fossa to bleed the corpse and collected the blood from the cervical stump vessels in a bucket. According to Physiopedia.com, the popliteal fossa is a diamond-shaped space between the knee joint. It is formed between the muscles in the posterior compartments of the thigh and leg. This anatomical landmark is the major route by which structures pass between the thigh and the leg. Although it's not the most conventional way to drain a body, Vladislav's brief medical schooling served him well. Making a deep incision to the popliteal fossa means that he most likely perforated the small saphenous vein. The small saphenous vein is a superficial vein of the posterior leg. Its primary function is to receive deoxygenated blood from the lower legs and return it to the heart. It's worth noting that slicing a vein as opposed to an artery causes a slow, steady flow of blood rather than a dramatic gush. This is because blood pressure in arteries is much higher than in veins, in part due to receiving blood from the heart after contraction, but also due to their contractile capacity. He hung the decapitated body in a position with the lower limbs up to symbolize crucifixion on an upturned cross, because as Vladislav states, the head of this kind of scoundrel should not hang even on a devil's cross. He then took the separated head and neck upstairs to his room and scalped it through the whole night. Afterward, he threw the head into the garden. Next, using a thread, he sutured together the soft tissues of the head, additionally trying to repair them with a prosthetic plastic mass. He then dried the skull using salt, thus preventing putrefaction. Subsequently, he placed the scalp mask over his head, previously shaved and layered with stick tape. He put on his father's clothes, hat, glasses, and scarf, and left home to sit on a bench. When his grandfather came by, he started a conversation with him pretending to be his father. The grandfather did not recognize him, and was sure that he was talking with his son. After a while, they even had breakfast together. Finally, the grandfather, surprised by the unnatural voice of his son, went into the cellar where he found the body and departed for the neighbor's house to call the police. Vladislav, finding that the crime had come to light, left home, taking garments his father wore on the day of his death, and found a hiding place nearby. He observed the scene and investigation carried out by police. He then sat on a bus stop bench, where he was later arrested. At the trial, Vladislav testified that the murder was to be, quote, a work of art illustrating extreme human meanness, and, quote, an act with no holds barred. He had modeled his crime from a killer in the movie Seven. He wore the scout mask on his head to see whether his grandfather could recognize him. Psychiatrists diagnosed Vladislav with borderline schizoid personality. Schizoid personality disorders are characterized by difficulty expressing emotions, detachment from social relationships, and a lack of desire for intimacy. Although the details of Władysław's crimes made him infamous in Poland, we mourn the loss of his father. Parricide, which is the killing of one's parents, accounts for approximately 2% of all homicides, according to the United States Department of Justice. To learn more about parricide in the United States, you can visit ojp.com.